Hello, and welcome to the Financial DNA series on Quickstart for the Financial Behavior Report. In today's video, we'll be talking more about the 5 dial scores. In particular, what do low scores or higher scores mean, and some talking points that you can use when you're working with clients with these scores. So this is our Financial Behavior Quickstart guide for the 5 scores, and here we'll talk about each of these scores. So with risk behavior, we're talking here about comfort in taking higher risk. Scores that are greater than 70 are going to be really risk takers and very tolerant with losses, while scores lower than 30 are going to be very safely managing risk, much more cautious, much more able to see pitfalls, and probably more comfortable after a decision is made versus prior to, so less risk tolerant. There could be lots of learned behavior in this area, particularly around financial risk taking for advisors who have a lot of learned behavior in financial investments. And so it's important to talk to your clients about their learned behavior in this area as well as their natural behavior, and ask them about how they take risk, both with money and also in other areas of their life. You can talk about how they like to maybe have more of a contingency plan, be more comfortable in known situations, and after a decision is made, when you're talking with the lower scores, talking about the higher scores, those folks like to take more bold action, be much more comfortable in uncertain situations. So you can see here on this report, on this guide, we've given you what does the score mean, and what are some talking points for both high and low scores. As you work with clients that may be sort of in the middle on some of these things, then you can ask them which resonates more with them. Certainly, scores that are closer to 70 are going to be more like that risk behavior, high risk behavior, and scores that are lower and closer to 30 are going to tend to be much more cautious. With financial relationship planning management, this is really about how much time and energy do they have for working with and investing in a relationship with a financial advisor. Again, there are no right or wrong answers here, and there's no better or worse answer here. Those with a higher score are going to tend to be more relational and tend to enjoy spending time building relationship a bit more. And those that are lower scored here will tend to be more results focused and tend to be more driven to want to make their own decisions. And so again, important conversation for you to have as an advisor. Where does your client fall, and what does that mean for your relationship with the client? Will you tend to be more of an idea person, that you're bouncing ideas with them and you're providing them some research and allowing them to make a decision, or are you helping them really walk through those decisions together and providing guidance and recommendations on decisions? For financial planning management, here we're talking about how financially organized is someone. Those scores that are higher tend to be very organized, good savers, very good with budgets, detail-oriented, and good follow-through on making sure that their plans are accurate and followed. Lower scores here are more spontaneous folks. They tend to appreciate more freedom. They tend to be more instinctual and go with their gut. They tend to be more general in the way they may do things mentally, or think about money in sort of more general buckets rather than in a precise budget line. Again, sometimes people will relate more to energy, how they spend their time and energy as big spenders, even if they have a system in place for actually saving dollars. With wealth building motivation, here you're looking at the ability to set and pursue ambitious goals. And so what that means is your higher scores here are going to be very driven to get goals that they set in the timeline that they set or better, where lower scores here are going to prefer more flexibility about how they set goals. They're going to tend to want to set maybe smaller goals, but in more areas. They won't be as driven as hard to get to a particular goal in one area, and they will tend to be a little bit more flexible about how that goal is realized. It doesn't mean that they don't have goals and that they don't achieve their goals, just that they'll be a little bit more flexible about how they achieve those goals. And then with financial emotional intelligence, and this is one that we get a lot of questions about. So here what we're talking about is the ability to recognize and balance impulses with decision making. And here higher scores tend to be more rational when they're hit with a difficult situation. So they tend to kind of tamp down their emotions, and they don't have much of an emotional reaction at first to a stressful event. Lower scores here tend to have emotional impulse reaction to an event. So under stress, they will tend to first access their emotions and then maybe their rationality. And so here, if they make a decision when they're having that initial reaction, because people with lower scores here will tend to have a much more emotional reaction to a stressor, and then their rationality catches up with them, versus people with high scores that have a very rational reaction to a stressor, and then maybe their emotions catch up to them. So here it's just a matter of helping clients see where are they on this scale, and then how can you as an advisor help. These are your clients that call you when there's a bump in the markets and they're a little bit freaked out. Those are going to be your lower scores here, calling to maybe with an emotional reaction to an event that they saw in the market. And reminding them of that and reminding them of the plan may be something that you can do as an advisor to acknowledge and validate that their feelings are real and expected and completely normal, and it's understandable, but that, in order to live to their plan, maybe there's something else that we want to do here, and that's why they've hired you as an advisor to help. Your higher scores here tend to be much more rational about making decisions, particularly when they're under pressure. They will sort of tamp down those emotions to make that decision. So we've given you some talking points here for each of the scores and some more description about what each of these scores mean. We hope that this is helpful to you and you enjoy using your financial